Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. In today's episode, we'll be discussing a whole bunch of things, actually. We'll be discussing Tron Ares, I think, the Lowdown on FX, which just had a new episode drop today, and a whole bunch of other things we've been watching on these episodes. I'm your host, Victor. I always forget to introduce myself. But on these episodes, I am joined by Darren.
Hello there, Victor.
Hello, Darren. Darren was away last week. I was so heartbroken I could not put out an episode. So
I was waiting to see if you did, and no, nothing came.
You know what? I actually started talking about Tron Ares by myself and some of these things by myself. And the episode was so short, and I was just like, I'm not really into any of these topics right now. So I figure we could probably touch base on all these things, probably cursory touch base on all these topics this very week. So I figured, you know what? We'll take a break. Plus, I mean, there's just a lot of other things going on in life too that kind of made it inconvenient. But you were away traveling. How were your travels? How was your family?
I was away. It was fantastic. Yeah. So we went to this place. People in Australia might know it. It's called Rottnest Island. So it's a island just I don't know, 20 k's or so off the coast, but it's quite separated from everything else. There's no cars. There's these creatures there called quokkas, which everybody goes there to get these selfies with these. They're like giant rats, but they're extremely friendly.
Oh, wow.
They're super cute, and they've got these natural kind of smiles. So you just see every single person trying to get a selfie with the quokkas. But we just had a beautiful place overlooking a little bay there. I think I shared a photo with you of my balcony.
Oh, yes.
And it was so relaxing that I actually got to read a book from start to finish.
Wow.
And all you do there is just go swimming, you cycle, and you just explore empty bay after empty bay. And yeah, it's a little bit of paradise here on the West Coast.
Wow, that is very much my speed right now. So it sounds like a perfect vacation.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
So what did you read?
Okay, so I read a book called Against All Odds, and it's about the Thai cave rescue.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yes.
I think it happened about 2018. Now, I'd seen the documentary of it.
Yeah.
Excellent documentary. I'd seen the Ron Howard movie, which was surprisingly good. It avoided all the Hollywood trappings of it. It had Viggo Mortensen in it. And it had Joel Edgerton, who plays Australian doctor, who's has this special set of skills in that he's one of the best cave divers in the world. And he's also an anaesthetist. So he was the guy that could jab the kids with ketamine to put them under so that each of these amateur divers could swim them out against the current. And it was a fantastic read. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's very rare for me to read a book from start to finish in such a short time. So it was, highly recommended story.
Yeah, that's a great, I've not read the book, but for anybody out there who hasn't seen the documentary on Disney Plus, I believe it is, and the Ron Howard fictional account, Hollywood account of it, which I think is on Amazon Prime, if I'm correct.
It's on Prime. Yeah. It's called 13 Lives. Really good.
They're both very good, but I mean, I very highly recommend the documentary, which is incredibly bracing. And truly, you hear this story and it sounds pretty crazy, but then when you see the documentary, you realize just how they're really threading a needle here and an incredible rescue that was.
Yeah, and reading the book, I mean, it was about, obviously this guy, Richard Harris, who was the main guy, is also another Australian, was in the next chamber on, and he's a trained veterinarian, so he had dealt with ketamine a lot. So he was the first guy to see the boys as they came through just the first section of the cave, just to check if this ketamine was working, and he was the one giving them top-ups. And they fully expected there to be casualties. And they said that all along. So the fact that, spoiler alert, everyone got out alive, apart from this one Navy SEAL early on in the mission who tragically passed away. Everyone else, all the trapped kids, got out alive, which was ridiculous for that to happen.
I mean, when you see the documentary, which includes so much footage of the actual rescue and that incredible moment when they emerge in the cave, this is the actual raw footage, and the kids are all still alive is just incredible. But then just to see, of course, spoiler for reality, they survive, but it's still definitely worth seeing for the fact that just the accomplishment of it is so amazing. I'm always such a big fan in even fictional movies, this idea of like competence porn, basically, like just seeing someone come up with a plan and executing it perfectly. And that's exactly smart people solving, thinking on their feet with all these odds against them and succeeding. And it's an incredible thing.
It really is. It is. Yeah. I'll probably watch the documentary again now after
Yeah, yeah.
reading this account. Yeah. I think I've seen the movie a couple of times.
The other things I wanted to bring up. Oh, one thing we definitely going to touch base on for anybody. I'll put this in the title so people can see. We'll probably be touching about a bunch of topics, but we definitely want to talk about the chair company also, which I know your wife has been looking forward to this show. She probably didn't even know she was looking forward to the show so much. And here it is. It has arrived.
She really didn't. She had a tough day that day. And I remember, just settle down, honey. We'll put this on. She's like, what are we watching? Check. Oh, it's Tim Robinson. Okay. All right. I'm into this.
Okay. Let's start off with Tron Ares, which this is, and I'm only bringing it up first, by the way, not because this is like a full-throated endorsement of the film in general, but more so because I can't imagine a time to bring this up where it will matter again, because no one really cares about this movie except for maybe us and a handful of people who have probably already seen it. So I think this would be pretty quick conversation. But I did a letterbox review where I said that this is, and I think you have the exact same opinion that I have, but I thought that it was an incredible production, like like the design work, the ideas of like this, the ability of 3D printing these objects, the way they collapse in the real world, just like this, just all the conceptual stuff, like the whoever is behind, and I should actually look them up, but whoever did the production design on this film deserves top marks. And by the way, that goes for all the Tron movies, which have incredible production across the board. They all have terrible scripts, but and they all have fantastic music, right? And that is the case here too. I saw this in IMAX, and I have listened to the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack multiple times since seeing the movie, and it is not the same as seeing it in the theater with that incredible Dolby sound or whatever the system was. And it was truly amazing. Like I was getting goose chills multiple times, just the blending of the visuals and the music. It is incredible as just a music video. And then honestly, like when maybe halfway through the movie where we have to start like figuring out the plot and having character development, like all that stuff, just cut it out. Just cut all those scenes out. Like I really, and I don't even mean that because I appreciated the other stuff so much more. I don't think that, I mean, I can't believe they spend the amount of money they do on these movies. And this is like a really dumb plot with very uncharismatic lead character, at least one of them. And yeah, but I loved great music, great visuals.
Yeah, uncharismatic is a really good word to describe Jared Leto's performance.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got to say, but yeah, I saw it. I didn't see it in IMAX. I don't think there is an IMAX around here anymore, but I saw it in a big screen and I saw it with that sound, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. All those action sequences, the light cycles, and then that weird, the repeater, or I don't know what it's called, but that thing that was coming down in the city and firing all the missiles and I don't even understand why the missiles and why the light cycles leave the solid bits of light in the atmosphere. I don't even care. Yeah. It just looked so awesome. The music was wicked. And like you, I went straight home and listened to the soundtrack, and it was not the same. I had to really cherry pick the tracks that I was into. Whereas in the cinema, the whole thing was just stunning. And also on the opposite end of the spectrum, the plot and the acting, apart from I think Greta Lee, she was really good in it. It just looked really awkward and really stunted, and it just didn't move anything forward. It was just like, let's wait for the next action sequence, where I don't quite understand why they needed to do that.
And I don't understand with the laziness of some of the scripting here, for sure. You spend this amount of money. And like you mentioned, I did really like Greta Lee. She is taking it seriously, like building empathy for the character. And still, it is goofy. Like she knows she's having fun in the movie. So she very much is perfectly calibrating, I think, her performance for the film she's in. The Jared Leto character is just like a charisma vacuum that he is. Like, I just didn't work for me at all. I mean, he in general doesn't work for me, but this is a character that he really couldn't have saved anyway. He's like really not much there. And but then just the plotting itself is so preposterous. Just some of the things like, how would this even work? Even the way the technology works. So these are minor spoilers for but they want to like print organic apples or fruit in desert areas, I guess, which kind of makes sense. But then what is happening with the Tron stuff is like, are they organic? I guess they are, but it's just, they haven't thought this out at all, right? Does like, if you grow the food and then it falls apart after 30 minutes, was it nutritious in the meantime? Like, I don't understand like how any of this stuff works. But anyway, it's just very silly and just like total MacGuffin to even have this technology work this way. And I don't think they've thought about it at all. Honestly, a lot of the like, I didn't even care about a lot of the logic leaps and how silly this technology would work this way or why it would work this way. In the moment, the action, I think, is really good. It's not just the design work. I think the action in the city, seeing the bikes riding around. And like you said, it's very silly that it actually leaves this vapor trail, which is a solid object. Like, why would that happen? Who knows? But it's very cool when you realize that's how it is. When that car gets flipped over, when it runs into it. And I'm like, oh, it's just all the visuals are just so cool, just the way that it's been executed. And man, they spent a lot of time thinking about how those action scenes play out and all those design decisions and thought nothing about the script at all. Not at all. Just a bare excuse to have a script at all. And who's even the lead here? Is it the two CEOs, the battle for the CEO? It's definitely her, but then Jared Leto he becomes the protagonist at one point. I'm like, who are we supposed to even, like, who's on a journey here? It doesn't, and then we're supposed to care about both of them, but they have like parallel stories most of the time. It's just a mess, a real mess.
It really is. I mean, Evan Peters plays like bad CEO, the evil guy, and some of the dialogue he has to spout is so ridiculous, and he does his best. He really tries. But when you think about it, it's just awful, awful. I thought the other girl, Jodie Turner-Smith, who we've seen in the agency, that was really great to see her again. I was like, where do I know her from? So I had to find out that she was from the agency.
She good, by the way. She's
I thought
there's something interesting about her character. Yeah, they should have developed that more for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the 29 minutes where things disappear, or they can only last for 29 minutes in the real world. I got stuck on that. Why was it 29 minutes? But they weren't interested in that at all. That was just a number.
An arbitrary number, right?
Yeah, to make it exciting. But also, what else did I love? Oh, I loved in the real world how the light cycles would do these cool arcs between the intersections. And I was like, oh, I remember in the original, they used to do right angle turns. And then, spoiler alert, they go back into the 80s game and they do these right angle turns. And I was all about that for some stupid reason. I thought that was so thrilling.
Yeah, there's that little member berry thing with remember how the original design work, which is actually cool to see it on a big screen designed that way.
It was really cool to see that color palette.
Yes.
I really loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are 3 Tron movies in a row that none of them have been very financially successful. This is probably the least successful of the 3, considering how much they spent on it. It is not going to make any money at all. I don't understand how they greenlit this, to be totally honest, considering the last one wasn't that financially successful either. But the last one also incredible design work and an incredible soundtrack, of course. So the Daft Punk soundtrack. So, I mean, I guess that's the pattern for these films. And I assume they'll make another one someday and spend another fortune on something that'll look very cool. And they will not think for a second about the plotting. But I mean, that's another total missed opportunity. Here we are on the cusp of AI becoming a thing. And does this film have anything to say about that? Like, there is the character, Jodie Turner's character, I forget her character name, but where she is given the instruction and it's taken like way too literally. I'm like, I guess that's like the only messaging here. Don't be careful how you instruct your AI chatbots in the future, everybody. It could have negative consequences.
Yeah, right. That was it, wasn't it? She refused the other guy's instruction because she already had the instruction to go with, and she took it on herself to go and get this other guy. But I mean, very surface level. It really didn't have anything to dig into, did it?
Oh my God, they have Gillian Anderson in this movie and she does absolutely nothing. Like, what are they thinking? It's like insane.
She did some funny accent, but that was about it.
Yeah, pretty much. She's trying to make the most of it. I mean, I guess. I mean, if she gave in more of a performance, I'm sure 90% of it ended up on the cutting room floor. So
Yeah,
would have
she had
cut
two or
even
three
more, is
scenes.
my opinion.
I don't understand. I mean, my cinema was pretty empty. I don't understand. We saw this trailer so many times
Yeah.
before every big movie of the last 6 months. This trailer was pumping and it looked so good, and then no one came out to see it. I asked my kids if they wanted to go. They're like, "No, what's that? No." And I was like, "You guys were right into it. Every time you saw the trailer, you wanted to go, and then they just flagged me, so I went by myself."
I mean, this is like, honestly, it's so funny because you have this situation where original IP cannot get produced nowadays. Everything has to be based on something else. So I guess this is like one thing Disney still has access to that they're willing to invest in. Again, I don't understand how you spend this amount of money on this movie, given it's just a cult hit. But I think this is actually where the Tron name is a negative connotation on this film because it's really is not a very well-known brand name. And the previous films, for people who've watched them, anybody like your kids watching the first Tron movie now will like laugh at the special
Yeah.
effects, although it's super cool when we saw that when we were younger. But then like the last one was again beautiful to look at, great soundtrack, but pretty terrible script once again, probably, but maybe better than this one, to be honest. And then so what's the legacy of this thing? It's even when I saw this, and I remember when I first saw this trailer, I brought it up to you going like, hey, if this is just a giant Nine Inch Nail listening party, I will be on board with it. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. And I was happy with that aspect of it. But I mean, that's a pretty slight. How many Nine Inch Nail fans are there, and how many Tron fans are there? It's not. This is not mainstream. Is my point.
That's right. And the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack was look, I remember Nine Inch Nails from the early 90s, and they weren't like this electronic kind of thing. So this felt like it really worked off the last film with the Daft Punk, where it didn't really have. I mean, I don't know. I'm being a bit critical. It is super cool. It's super cool music. So it's Trent Reznor and his Offsider. Are they both Nine Inch Nails now, just for the purposes of this film, or because? Yeah, couldn't work it out because they're doing so many soundtracks lately,
Yeah.
and now they've just got different names for different types of films. That's cool.
Well, the
I think they get
interesting thing
cameos
about
in there.
that, if you want some more context on that, the interesting part of that is that first of all, it's they are Nine Inch Nails, by the way. So even when the official Nine Inch Nails records come out, this is the first one that's a soundtrack labeled as Nine Inch Nails. But when they are Nine Inch Nails, the two of them.
Yep.
But then they make all these different soundtracks, and like they've done Challengers, and they've done. I'm thinking of another one I just saw recently. Oh, like I just saw that movie After the Hunt, which is completely different. It's like this completely minimalist, just a piano, not at all the stereotypical Nine Inch Nail type sound. And they were hired to do this as a soundtrack. By the way, the story behind that is this: the head of Disney says, "Why don't you guys call it a Nine Inch Nails soundtrack as a way to like generate more hype?" And then they were on board with that. And I think that they did. I mean, I think this sounds different, by the way. So it's not like doesn't sound like Nine Inch Nails of the 90s, but I also think that they have stepped back into a more aggressive sound than what we've heard on a lot of their soundtracks recently. But to your point, I called this out when I texted you. There's a lot of stuff in that soundtrack that's very cool. There's definitely some John
You said
Carpenter.
there was, John Carpenter.
There's
Yeah.
definitely some John Carpenter in there. There's like the soundtrack from Escape from New York. There's definitely some aspects of that there. There's a song that really feels like they're lifting from Daft Punk later on towards the end of the movie. There's definitely, I mentioned to you that there was one song that reminded me a lot of the soundtrack to Clockwork Orange, but my reference point was a little bit off, which was the original soundtrack to Tron, the first, was from Wendy Carlos, who also did the music for Clockwork Orange. So it's probably referencing that sound, her sound of that soundtrack from the original Tron movie. So yeah, there's all these little intentionally referencing these previous films as well. There's some Radiohead in there. There's a song that sounds like Kid A. So that's not related to Tron at all, but he's definitely like using these different cultural reference points to bring things out in the film. And I thought he did a great job. Like I actually think that some of the character development, like there's a big chunk of the movie where there's hardly any important dialogue. It's really just action, one action scene after another. And all the character development and all the story development is through the music itself, which I thought was honestly how the whole entire film should have been.
You're so right. Yeah. I mean, I still came away from that movie pretty pumped, but
Yeah,
also
exactly.
so bemused that some of the choices that they made to try to make it a bit more, I don't know, Disney. I don't know. Even from the opening credits, the Disney castle was all Tron-like.
Mm.
Just so cool.
They really
But
went
yeah.
all out with that. It's so funny. They go all out, like you said, even with they made a separate Tron logo for the Disney castle. And man, all for this. It's pretty crazy.
What a shame that no one's going to see it.
Yep, exactly correct. And I mean, and by the way, this is a huge flop. So it opened a little smaller than the previous Tron movie here in the US, but that movie made the movie made 400, the previous one made $400 million worldwide on a budget that was a little bit smaller than this one. And that was basically like break even. But the really bad sign here is that this is going to it may make it to $100 million in the US. But of course, they're like, hey, the other one made well over $200 million overseas. That's where we make our money. This film opened at like half what it was supposed to open overseas. This thing is going to be bigger in the US, and it's not a hit here than it is overseas. This is going to lose, who knows, $200 million. It's a huge disaster.
Wow. Is this one of the movies that gets a release in China? Is there still only a handful of movies that get a release there?
There is a Chinese release for this, but China, I mean, Asia in general has turned their backs on American movies recently.
Yeah.
And so I don't expect it to be like, that's not going to save it. And even with the movies that were hits in China, the return on those, China keeps a huge chunk of the box office. So
Right.
it's pretty small, even if when it is big, and this is not going to be that significant at all. So.
Oh, well, so yeah, but we'll wait for another sequel in 15 years, I guess,
Exactly.
when everyone's forgotten.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And I guarantee you that there will be, if you go to the Disney parks, there will be an awesome Tron ride based on this movie, which is maybe part of this investment is in having a Tron. I guess those Tron ride, I have to assume, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I have to assume that those Tron rides actually generate money, like they are a pretty strong tourist attraction for the hardcore Tron fans. Because I mean, that's the only way these films make any kind of sense, to be honest. So. And of course, Jeff Bridges is in this movie for like 2 minutes, and not even like and I almost didn't want to bring that up, but now they're using it in the trailer because they're so desperate to have people show up that I don't think it's a spoiler anymore.
Oh, I was always expecting him to show up. I don't think that's a spoiler at all.
Well, it comes pretty late in the movie. That's the only reason. Oh, and I mean, we don't even have to get into spoilers, but the whole premise of this, that they're looking for this piece of code that's like two lines of code that makes something organic and permanent, and it's been around for 40 years and no one's used it before. Come on. It's so stupid. Anyway, it doesn't matter. No one's going to watch this.
It really doesn't. Maybe people will after listening to this, because I'd say catch it at the cinema if you can.
That's when you want to see it. Yes.
Yeah. It's not going to be the same. Even if you've got a great sound system and a big screen, it's just not going to be the same.
Yeah. That's actually, maybe that's the recommendation point there. If you are, and I'm sure, you know what? I have friends of mine who were dying to see this movie. I went to see it by myself and they didn't come. But I know that they were really excited about seeing it. And like, for whatever intersection of the audience is in that camp, where like you were a fan of the previous soundtracks and just the Tron experience, then if you plan to see this movie, do go see it in the theaters. It won't be around for that long. So go check it out while it still has those big screens. Probably this is the last weekend that it'll actually hold those large screens, and with a really great sound system, because if you want that experience, this is an experience. It's an actual experience.
It really
so
is.
In that way, it is valuable. As a movie, it is pretty bad. So, okay, next thing I want to talk about, something that's not bad at all, which is The Lowdown. Did you watch this most recent episode, the one that came out yesterday?
I did. Yeah, I stayed up late last night to do my homework, and loving this show. It's so fun, isn't it? And the characters, just the one thing that stood out to me last night was, especially that last shot, everyone in this world seems so lived in, and even just someone that passes through the background, they've got a whole character that you can immediately see and that comes through. It's just so alive, this TV show.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think this is going to be one of my favorite films of series, I should say, of the year. And it's for that very reason. Like, these people don't feel like characters. They don't feel like they're reading dialogue. They don't feel like they are there to further plot. They are just characters who know each other, who have histories with each other. And the show can be threatening in moments and then be hilarious the next moment. You literally do not know what you're going to get from moment to moment. And it is just a total pleasure. And I don't want to break down the plot. There is a mystery that's unfolding here, but this show is such a hang, and it is saying things. It's making points about what's happened in Oklahoma in subtle ways, this history of it, and basically being repeated through this conspiracy that they're unraveling here again. So they're exploring these things, but it's just all in the context of these characters who have their own histories with each other and have their own dynamics. And like you said, they feel like real people. And it is just a total pleasure to watch this show every single week.
It really is. And Ethan Hawke's character, I mean,
so
he
good.
does have a history of really going all out in his
Yes.
characters, in his films. And this one, he's just letting it all hang loose. He's got his gut coming out. He's got
Yeah.
just his posture is just like this kind of weaselly kind of person. But he's puts on that smile. I think there was an episode, an instance last night's episode where he almost ran into someone coming into his shop, and he just flirts with her in those few seconds, puts on this smile, and you can really see how people love him, even though he's such an urchin.
Yeah, that's literally what happened. I mean, that's a perfect example of how he can pull that charm off. But this week's episode is very funny. Peter Dinklage shows up as the previous owner of the bookstore. They hang out the whole entire time. And we find out a little bit about their friends and their friendship in the past. They're still continuing this. Once again, this investigation is almost like the secondary or tertiary thing that the show's even interested in, to be honest, but in a great way. And although I feel like the plot is going to come more to the fore in the next few episodes, but it's just the seeing them together. The dialogue is absolutely hilarious. I like how he's using the bathroom there. He goes, "Did you use my bathroom?" And he goes, "Yes, it was treacherous." But yeah, you see the dynamic between them. But like you mentioned, the main reason to sell this is everybody's great in this show, by the way. Everybody, even the small characters, which again is something that is very much Sterling Harjo's brand when you think about Reservation Dogs. But the real reason to watch this is for Ethan Hawke, that you mentioned, that he, for me, is hit and miss. I've loved him in things like Gattaca. There's some great films he's done, but he can be a little too much. You can see him trying very hard to act. And then I feel like Richard Linklater really understood how to use him with the Before movies and with Boyhood. And you really see how it's like almost like that became the popular understanding of who he was. And he's co-author on those films as well. So I think that really is tapping into something that is innately Ethan Hawke himself. But of all his performances, this is my absolute favorite because it's like he's weaponized all those things you said. He's like that kind of the do-gooder who talks too much, but he's poking fun at that aspect of himself. But then of course he's a total schlub and he's a total mess, but he could just turn on the charm all of a sudden. And it's just like perfectly weaponizes every aspect of him. And at the same time, he's doing a performance. He's not done this type of character before. So he's really stretching, but at the same time, you see that charisma, his innate charisma underneath it all. And yeah, I mean, he just gives an incredible performance, really, truly.
So good. And the father-daughter relationship is really good as well. Like, he knows he's not the greatest father in the world, but he's trying, but he's lucky enough to have a really good daughter. So he's just trying to encourage that. And it's just so sweet. Yeah. And I want to see more of the bookstore guards, the security guards that have just up and said that they'll guard his store if he pays them. But he doesn't really want to pay them. He doesn't really need them or want them. But
he doesn't really have money either to pay them.
And they do help him out in crucial situations, or not.
This week it was pretty funny where he like yelled at them for shooting the gun. And then he's like, I did get rid of those guys. And he's like, oh, you did. Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
He like turned on a dime right there. It's pretty funny.
And you're right. There is the whole mystery behind it, which,
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm not really following all the strings in that, but I just think it's great. I mean, even last night, there was the relationship or the kind of date between Keith David's character and this other character, which I didn't even remember who she was. But it was just so sweet and so charming. And you're just like, okay, we're going with this now. We're going to see how this date ends up.
Yeah, and that's the kind of I have a lot of confidence in the way the story is developing, that it's more of, I don't know if you ever saw a show called Lodge 49. Have you ever seen Lodge 49?
No.
It only lasted for like 2 years, and it's what's Kurt Russell's, Wyatt Russell is the star of it.
Oh yeah, he's good.
And he is this guy who's like a total loser, and his dad has died, and he's rootless, and his whole life is falling apart, and he can't deal with the fact that he's lost his dad. And then on a beach, he's in Santa Monica, and it's about like the gentrification. There's a large corporation that's buying up land there. So it's one of these noirs as well. And he finds a ring on the beach one day when he's like just using his metal detector. The ring leads him to this lodge, and it's one of these like secret societies. And no one who hangs out there, they just go there to drink beers. No one really believes in the mysticism of the lodge. But what ends up happening over the course of the show is that there is something mystical going on that he starts to unlock. But the show itself is just about these guys becoming friends and hanging out together at the lodge. And then this mystery is developing in the background. Paul Giamatti is one of the producers of that show, by the way. Anyway, it's a great show, but it's in the vein of this show as well, where it's really primarily wants to be a hang and get you to meet the characters. But I have that same kind of confidence that in the background, all this stuff that doesn't seem to matter is all going to coalesce when we get towards the end as the mystery resolves itself. And the key point there is like the confidence in the storytelling. I'm not like, why are we talking to these people now? I don't want to be here right now. It's like, it's all part of this like gumbo, this like mix of ingredients. And it will, and I have the confidence in the storytelling that it's going to coalesce. But I love the decisions it makes. Last week's episode, I think, was really, truly a highlight. And I love the fact that the guy who we've been basically seeing as the villain, the main villain in this whole entire show, maybe like a loose cannon that is maybe working against the intentions of a higher up, that first of all, we humanize him, that he is like in recovery and he is trying to like make amends to somebody who rescued him. And then we still don't even know the full story of who that is, but he ends up getting killed by the end of the episode. So it's this, just as we humanize him, he's off the show, which is a completely shock, right? We expected that this is going to be the big bad for the season, and it turns out not to be the case at all.
Total shock, because he was really set up as to be this evil henchman all through his little cameos here and there. And then we finally get to know him and he's gone. Right. I could not believe it, in a quite brutal way as well.
Exactly. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And also, I mean, Jean Triplehorn, she almost got that whole episode as well. Yep. And we found out all about her married to her possibly gay husband, or definitely gay husband.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll see Peter Dinklage again. I mean, he's just a heavy hitter, comes in for one episode, steals everything. And then,
yeah.
Do you think he'll come back? I don't know. Maybe a little bit at the end, but I think
wouldn't be surprised if he comes back like in the end when like he's at his lowest and he needs everyone to come together to rescue him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Scooby Gang gets together and rescues him. But yeah, I wouldn't expect him to just be a regular from this point on. Oh, one more thing I wanted to bring up. It has this kind of like this sunny noir type hang of a movie, vibes going on. But another thing that's definitely here is Twin Peaks as well. And of course we have Kyle MacLachlan here.
Yes.
And there has been a little Twin Peaks. It hasn't gotten really surreal yet, but it has little hints of Twin Peaks here and there, especially like in the night scenes where it does get a little more ominous. But this week's episode where we end up like with him, like literally like descending into like some kind of hellscape, but also the shots of him driving to that location and the camera very low to the ground. It's like Lost Highway, right? So definitely David Lynch vibes going on here.
I was going to say that.
And so, yeah, so it's definitely big Lynch influence here as well. Of course, I love Lynch. So anything, I'm fine with anything referencing Lynch for, and the Coen brothers as well. There's definitely Coen brothers vibes here. We talked about that henchman that got killed off last week, like the car accident. And early on, you think he might be like an Anton Chigurh type character, although things turn out differently for him, obviously. So there definitely are Coen brothers vibes here. The Big Lebowski, of course, is a reference here as well. So it's all in this combination, but it doesn't feel like pastiche. It doesn't feel like it is just an imitation. It's its own thing. And yeah, I mean, every week I just watch it. And it's so rare, by the way, that especially when I'm watching something for the podcast. And of course, we're not breaking down all the scenes, etc. So, I mean,
it's not that type of show.
It's not that type of show. But I was going to say, that's what I like so much about it. It's just a show that you just like let it happen in front of you. It's so much fun to watch.
And we're spoiling bits and pieces, but it doesn't spoil the show.
It doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah. There's so much in there.
This is why I don't even mind bringing up individual plot points, because it's like, what does it matter? The whole thing is just a vibe. So that's basically how it is.
And that final shot of last night's episode, I've got to watch that again. I mean, the way that he's as you say, descending into hell through this house and all these characters appearing behind him, and he has an interaction with a lot of them and they all hate him.
Right.
And you realize some are cops, some are probably skinheads. It's just a whole mishmash of things. They're blowing things up in the background. I mean, it was just so good.
Yeah. And I assume that this is going to indicate some kind of a pivot. I mean, where we're going to focus more on the mystery. I think there's 8 episodes. So, I mean, at this point, we're heading into the last 3. So I think that they're going to put the screws to him, and the mystery is going to have to get resolved sooner or later. So I think so now's a great time. In other words, everybody out there, to check it out. Check out the pilot, if nothing else. And if you're vibing with it, stick with it. It's like a total blast. So much pleasure. It's like a real pleasure for me to have this show on. And
yeah, it'd be a fun binge, and turn the music up as well, because the needle
great music.
Great.
Yeah.
And all the ones that it's like you'd put on a record, but they don't play that one. They play the B-side.
Right.
Or they play the rare one, the rare that you haven't heard. Yeah.
And I mean, that goes back to Reservation Dogs also. I used to Shazam so many songs from Reservation Dogs, because these are either, I'm like, I know who this artist is, but man, I've never heard this song. Like you said, it's a B-side or something, or like just some crazy psychedelic music. Then I'm like, is this a new band trying to sound psychedelic? And then I Shazam it, and it's like a lost album that like is out of print from the 1960s from like a Native American like psychedelic rock band. I'm like, oh my God, this is so deep. These cuts are so deep. It's crazy. So, and this is not as obscure as some of those cuts, but a great soundtrack, definitely. Another thing that reminds me of Lodge 49, by the way, Lodge 49, even if you never watched this show, Darren, they have the soundtrack to season 1 and 2 on Spotify. I've been listening to it, and it's just incredible. Just all the psychedelic rock from the 60s and 70s. I have never heard 90% of this music.
That's great. Okay. I'll add that to my playlist.
All right. So 2 very different shows. One is, or the 2 products we're talking about here, that we're in it for the vibes. One is a disaster, Tron, but the vibes are perfect. And here's the brilliant show with great vibes and great music in both cases, but totally different projects, obviously, and 2 different audiences probably for that as well. But another thing that we could talk about that is definitely has its own, again, like maybe a cult following for sure. But let's talk about The Chair Company, which from what I can see, by the way, it had pretty good numbers the day it opened. From, like I said, it's hard to get actual hard numbers on this, but this show seems to have been picking up steam all week. So I am curious to see if this very strange show is actually going to cross over into some kind of pop moment, which is pretty funny. Another conspiracy thriller, by the way, potentially, or it could just be someone having a midlife crisis. That's the question that's being asked here. But I know your wife is a huge fan of.
She really is. Tim Robinson, is that his name?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we saw bits and pieces of his sketch show, but sketch shows are up and down. And definitely we haven't seen all of it. But he's just a very unique character. And then she took me to see his film Friendship, which I think the director of Friendship directed this first episode.
Yes, there's a lot of shared DNA. Company. This could be in the same universe, actually.
Yeah, it really could. But this the chair company, it seems like he uses his kind of neurotic persona a little bit more controlled. So it's a lot more accessible than his other projects. It's filmed like a movie. It's filmed really well. It looks really great. And the pilot is only about half an hour long.
Yeah.
But Faye was like, this is like a movie. Right. She was totally captivated. And I was like, why is he part of this? He's like a mid-level boss of a mall firm that people that open shopping malls. I'm like, why is this called the Chair Company? Until the thing actually happens halfway through the episode, when you get it and you're like, okay. And then this guy becomes hyper-focused. And she explained that she could really, my wife could really relate to him becoming hyper-focused on something so mundane but so important for the rest of his life that he needs to solve this to be able to get the rest of his life in order. And it was just a fascinating watch and so funny too.
Yes, very funny. And the paranoia of it. And so, I mean, he's touching on a lot of themes that he has in his sketch work and definitely in Friendship also, which is, I mean, I guess like broadly, he is satirizing a certain view of, I mean, like the joke that's been made about Friendship is that it's a like horror film about someone who just cannot hang out with other guys. Like he's just like trying to be cool, just trying to hang, and he just cannot hang, this guy. And that's what we have here too. But like you said, there's two things that I think work better here, that he's not as totally off the rails right away. There's obviously something going on it's a little more believable that he would get obsessed with these things, because you can imagine if a lot of weird stuff keeps happening, you do start to think, well, maybe he has something going on for real. And the last thing is that unlike Friendship, where he was such an oddball and everybody else seemed to be playing it pretty straight, everybody's weird here. Like I like the janitor's obsession with his
wheelbarrow,
and what was the other really funny character? Oh, that he gets reported to HR because when he falls down, he looked up the woman's skirt. So everybody's pretty strange there in the office. So he's not as odd as it would seem, although he does seem to be the weirdest, or at least the most aggressively strange of them all. But this is so far very funny, and I like how it skewers the whole. I think we all know these types of people in our offices, people who take things too seriously, people who are too into the office culture, people who report everything to HR, the really rule followers. And then they're just a weird guy that you're like, what's his story? So there's some of this we've seen before, of course, all through that prism of Tim Robinson. Man, I got to tell you, when he ate that little piece of egg at the end of the episode, and then the fallout from that. But just when he ate the egg itself, I just laughed out loud. It was just so funny. He's just so obsessed with that half of an egg. Can you put that in a box for me? Oh God.
And you've all been in a situation where you get a parking ticket where you don't think that you deserve it, or something like that, and your mind is fixated on that, and you want justice for that, and you're going to stop at nothing. I mean, my wife has these things every other week, so she really could identify with this guy, and she just wants him to follow it through, and he is going to follow it through and find this chair company if it's the last thing he does, and he will, the rest of his life will go to shit because he's focused on this thing until he can solve this mystery. Then he can get back to his normal life.
He might lose his job, right? His promotion he's been looking for. This is another thing that reminds me of Friendship too, where it's like he could potentially lose his whole job, this thing he's been seeking for so long, because he's just so hyper fixated on this thing. We've been talking around it because I want it to be a surprise for the audience, of course, but it's very funny when it happens. And he basically just gets obsessed with tracking down. And I think we've all been in this circumstance too, which is another thing that subtly is being pointed out here, which is how many times in now it's just like, even if you're just like, you order something from Amazon and then there's like a missing part, and in the Christmas present for the kids, and then you're trying to get this part, and you're like, you go to a website, and then who's this person on the phone, and then there's like a Chinese website, and then there's no email address, or it's a fake email address. They're like, what the hell is going on? And again, it's just one of these things where it's like, is it just this multinational companies all just buying each other up and really don't care about the products they make? Or is it some giant conspiracy that's all set up to destroy your life? Well, we know what he believes to be true.
And it's always targeted right at you.
Right. It all happens to me.
I had to cancel a subscription the other day, and just to find the button to cancel, it was buried and buried in settings. I found this button and I hit it, and I was so happy, but nothing happened. And so I had to refresh the page. Nothing happened when I canceled this button. So then you need to find the support. There's no support. It's just documents to help you find this button. I was like, I found the button. The button doesn't work. So then I needed to find someone on chat, but then it just goes on and on, deeper and deeper, and you just never get that satisfaction.
I mean, a perfect example of how bizarrely discombobulated the internet can be and how disorienting it is that today I was doing a research for something related to the podcast for the platform I use. And because I was reading one article, so then a banner came up for a service that I used to use. And I'm like, oh, I like that service. It's supposed to match you with other podcasters. So I'm like, oh, I like that service. And I thought they were out of business. But an ad popped up while I was reading this article. So I click on the link and it takes me to the website. And I start navigating around the website, trying to see like, where are the different profiles and things, which doesn't seem to be easy to navigate. So I'm clicking around. And I'm like, well, maybe I just need to log in. So then I click the login button. I try to log in. And when I try to log in, it says, this platform no longer exists. Sorry. And I'm like, okay, so you're running ads and you still have the website up? Like, what is going on here? I don't understand. But anyway, that's part of the world we live in now.
So this chair company, there's only one episode out, is that correct? And so they're going week to week with this. Yeah, and it's HBO.
And your wife cannot wait.
She can't wait. I think she mentioned it today. She's mentioned it every day.
You have to wait until so it's Sunday night, so it's your Monday morning. So I guess you'll have to wait till you get home if she can make it that long. You might have to watch it first thing in the morning when you wake up.
That's right.
We'll be watching that week to week. But yeah, it's a short episode. There's this comedy block, which traditionally HBO has on their evenings with their signature Sunday shows.
And his daughter in the show, she is also a big name. I forget her name, but she was in It. So she was the redheaded girl in It. So she plays his daughter in the show. So I assume she's going to have more to do as the series goes on, because she's really only in that opening scene so far.
You give me a perfect segue, first of all, to a few things to bring up. One is that this is an HBO show on Sunday nights, like you mentioned. And of course, we're coming to the end of Task, so I get your opinion on where you're at with Task right now. And of course, as soon as Task wraps up, which wraps up this very week, the subsequent week, Darren and I will start talking about Welcome to Derry, the It prequel series.
Amazing.
So where are you with Task now that you've all caught up and 1 week to go?
Yeah, all caught up. It's been good listening to you guys talk about it. The last two episodes were just mind-blowing, I thought, and real prestige TV. Yeah, there's a bit of nitpicks with how things happen. I think you guys brought it up in your show, but such a good show. Those last two episodes particularly, and I really like how they use the environment of this town and how the camera kind of floats through the trees. It uses the rivers, and it reminded me of that Eric Bana show that we were watching, where the environment plays a huge part, the natural environment plays a huge part in the character of the story and how these people are just lost in it. Mark Ruffalo's doing an incredible job, but that Tom Pelphrey guy was killing it in every scene, just absolutely killing it, as well as his niece as well. I mean, it's just top shelf TV, and yeah, I'm really happy that you guys covered it, because it's just been fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think this has been a big show, a big hit for HBO as well. It's been growing week to week from their announcement they make. And I mean, we see that too in the downloads for the podcast, that it's been picking up every week. We get a slightly more listeners. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Like, this is the type of show you hope to get, right? So, and it's a perfect type of show for that, by the way. Like, maybe the Lowdown at the end of the year will be higher rated for me than a Task. But Task is the type of show that, because of the mystery and little action beats and the cliffhanger endings, it's a very easy kind of like to have that kind of conversation. But if anybody's behind on that show or hasn't watched it, it's a real quick season, 7 episodes. And yeah, we're wrapping up this very week. And then, well, yeah, then the next big HBO show. It's weird how HBO positions these shows one after the other, because a lot of times I feel like these shows don't have a lot of overlapping audience. Like, how many people are like, Task is going to be a big show for them, and the It prequel is going to be a big show for them. I'm not sure what the overlap there is in that audience.
Same audience, or you and me are going to watch both?
That's true. It's us, right? So there we are.
Now, I'm a little bit apprehensive about prequel. It's a prequel, right?
Yeah.
A little bit apprehensive, taking the Pennywise character, chucking new kids in there. Is it set like whatever 30 years prior? Because I think wasn't that there was a certain number of years where Pennywise comes and goes.
Yeah.
So is that what the thing is about?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't done all my research on that, but I think it is significantly earlier than the show itself. So obviously the novel was written in the 80s, so even that has a time gap in it, because it maps onto the film that came out that was supposed to reference back to the 90s. So I guess there's in that gap between the two. And then, yeah, I mean, there's some references back to the 1960s and some of the newspaper clippings. If you've read the book, they have like, he goes into has the whole history of the clown. So I don't know if they're going to do this like an anthology where they're going to move through different periods of time with the It character. And I also heard that the individual storylines aren't like, there's really not that much to work from in those. Just brought up some of these stories that from the newspaper clippings that happened in the past. So I think what they're doing is they're using storylines from other Stephen King writings to fill those characters in. So that is what I'm more interested in seeing them try to expand, like almost like a Stephen King universe of different storylines, and then really treating this show, if it's a success, as an anthology where they can like move through time. And then like the clown character doesn't have to be like central to every one of these stories. Like, I mean, It Chapter 2, which I just finally saw It Chapter 2 recently, and man, I hated that movie. I thought it was terrible. So I know people didn't like it as much as the first one, but I really didn't like the second one. And so all that is to say that we are definitely going to sample that first episode or two, and then we can pivot to another show if we need to. There's lots of other stuff to watch, so we'll decide then. But I do hope that that they use that as a Stephen King to springboard into other Stephen King like stories.
But they've done that before with that Castle Rock show, which I think I saw one episode and I wasn't really that keen to continue. But one of the most interesting things I think about it is that it happens to you when you're a kid, and then it happens again when you're grown up. So I don't know if they're going to do something like that, because I thought it was always fascinating to see the young actors and then to see the older actors playing the same characters in the miniseries and in those two films. So if they don't do that, I think they're missing out on something, because it's very difficult to do. But that was always a fascinating thing for me.
I also have directly to your point, I think that is also a reason that I have some confidence. HBO is usually pretty, as a matter of fact, this has been in production. This was supposed to come out a whole year ago. So they've been really massaging the material from the scripting to the production. So this has been ongoing. So I think that HBO has tried they want this to be something that is successful and maybe launches a multi-seasons. So I am curious to see exactly what you're describing, because I think that is an interesting idea that, instead of having an anthology where you see the clown character come back over these different years, that actually seeing exactly that, right? You can imagine expanding on what we already know, where you can have these older characters mentoring these younger characters where they're going through it and they're at different ends of the experience, right? And then you can move forward in time again, right? So that could be a very interesting way to explore the material. So there's a lot of potential here. It could go either way. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and it's Andy Muschietti who's doing
Yes.
it, who did the other It movies as well. So it's going to look good.
Well, you know how I feel about the CGI monsters. I'm not.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring up the CGI and how we want less of it.
We'll see.
We'll see how that in our Pennywise.
So some other things we could throw in there real quick to discuss as well. I've only seen one episode of Chad Powers. I had two problems with the show, I have to say. But I am planning to sample more of it, but I've only seen the one. So, but I told you this, like right away when the show had the Hawk girl there as a cameo, I was so turned off. Like literally that turned me off so much. I'm like, I don't think I can watch the rest of this episode. And then it was so convoluted with the makeup and whatever. I didn't really buy into it. But I have to say that I am someone who is rooting for Glen Powell. And he was in that Richard Linklater movie, Everybody Wants Some, where he played like that college baseball players. All those guys there became like stars later on. And I thought he was so charming in there. And he has this charm that turns really angry. And he also used that kind of jerk mode, I think, really well in the Maverick film. And but when he's this good guy, this nice guy, I don't know. Like I have a problem with this version of that character where he's a jerk with a heart of gold. I don't know. So, but convince me. Tell me what you're liking this a lot more than I have.
I'm on board. Yeah, I'm on board with Chad Powers. The first episode is probably the worst, and the Hawk Tour girl, it's very divisive. I mean, she's obviously used as a comedic beat in it, but like, why? I mean, yeah.
Right.
But my favorite episode is the third episode, which is it's a self-contained sports movie. It's all takes place on the field during one game, and all the characters get their little circle during the episode, and it was fantastic. As someone who loves those sports movies that snatch triumph from disaster, I really enjoyed watching it. And Steve Zahn gets a lot more to do. The girl that plays Steve Zahn's daughter, who's been sidelined as a coach, she gets a lot to do. And Chad Powers, as the backup quarterback, gets his moment to show what he's all about. It's super cheesy, but Victor, mate, I'm into it. What can I say?
Well, I was going to sample more of it because I oftentimes do not like pilots of shows, and then they find their way over time. So I was going to sample more of it. But yeah, definitely we'll give it a shot. But yeah, the pilot episode really didn't work for me. I mean, there were scenes in it that I liked, but once it's just, I mean, the makeup thing threw me off as well because it seems so unconvincing. But just the idea of like this loser trying to make a comeback, I'm always a fan of that. And as a matter of fact, this is not what I was planning to talk about, but I'm going to bring it up because I noticed it in your Letterboxd history. And influence, if you like this type of comeback story or the underdog story, sports film, the influence for Task, believe it or not, I didn't even know this. Brad Inglesby was talking about that one of his big inspirations for the show Task was Breaking Away. And the whole quarry reference is one, as that's where that imagery comes from, like that life around the quarry. And these guys feel like they missed their chance, even though they're obviously in two very different genres. But I love Breaking Away. I watched that movie so many times when I was a kid. And I saw you watched it finally, and I guess you liked it, but you weren't I don't think you were as enthused as I was by it.
Oh, I probably wasn't as enthused at watching a 50-year-old movie. Actually, I think it was made the year I was born, but we watched it on like a Sunday afternoon movie. I was actually searching for a film that I watched in the 80s about a bike race, and I thought this was it, and it turned out not to be the case because I'd never seen this Breaking Away movie before. But yeah, we really enjoyed it, and we could definitely see the Task kind of thing where they bond while jumping in this abandoned quarry. And it's really cinematic the way they do it. And it was fascinating to see. I think it was Dennis Quaid in his
Dennis
first
Quaid,
ever
right?
role.
Crazy.
It was Jackie Haley.
Yep.
It was one of the guys from Home Alone. It was really interesting to see these actors before they were famous put on really cool roles and really in like, I think it was a 70s movie. So yeah, very cool. But I think I found the movie that I was searching for, and I think it's called American Flyers.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet since I was about 8 years old. And it was actually written by the same guy that wrote Breaking Away. So this guy obviously has a fetish for cyclists and just likes to make cycling movies.
Yeah, I loved Breaking Away when I was growing up. It was one of those movies that I would always watch whenever it was on TV. And I was probably younger, slightly young when I didn't see it in the movie theaters like in the 70s. I saw it like when it was on TV constantly in the probably late 80s, mid late to late 80s. And I was a little younger than the guys in the film itself. Those actors were probably like in their late teens. I was probably in my early teens when I was watching that film. But I could just totally relate. And it was just like when you're just, oh yeah, man, I feel like just like wanting to go through all that, right? Like trying to like differentiate yourself in some way.
And it's the whole class thing as well.
Italian. What's that?
Yeah, the whole class thing, because they're the townies.
Yes.
And they have to live in the same town as the college students as well, where they're the same age, but they're in vastly different kind of levels of the socioeconomic spectrum. And the guy learning Italian and just speaking Italian at home, and his dad is just beside himself why his son wants to speak Italian. It's just so funny.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see like how things have not really changed that much. What was that comedy that came out a couple of years ago with Jennifer Lawrence where she's tutoring that younger guy? And
yes, I did see that when she has a whole nude fight
she's a
scene,
nude scene. She's in a fight sequence on the beach, totally naked. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway,
No Hard Feelings, it's called.
No Hard Feelings, right. Where that takes place. And it's the same situation. We were like actually being on the other fork, not the billionaire fork, but the other fork. And like, that's where all the regular people live. And then you go to the other side, they all work at the hotels and the resorts and everything where the millionaires stay. And then things don't change. That socioeconomic divide continues. If anything, it's worse now, probably. All right. Anything else you watched? I have one recommendation for you. I think your daughter wanted to see this movie. And then it's Good Boy, the horror film.
Oh, yeah. Good Boy. Yeah. You've seen it, have you?
I did. And I saw it like at a preview screening, and it has done really well. The second week, it was one of the best retentions for one of these Shudder original films. So I think it's the second biggest hit they've ever had other than Late Night with the Devil, which broke out a couple of years back. And it's really good. But going back to the idea of like how I don't like CGI this is an incredibly low budget film for anybody who doesn't know. It's still playing in theaters, but I'm sure it'll be available on Shudder very soon. And it is all practical effects. So it's like a haunted house film. It's pretty much straightforward, creepy sounds, strange things happening, shadows moving on their own. So there's a lot of, but very well made, exceptionally well made filmmaking. No CGI. This is all practical effects, very well done. But what makes this film so compelling is that it's all from the point of view of this dog. And this dog gives an incredible, like one of the absolute greatest dog performances of all times. And somehow just seeing what is very well executed, but pretty stereotypical scary movie. Like I watch these films, like I will watch one of the Conjuring films, which have a lot of like things that go bump in the night type scares, which do nothing for me at all. But seeing it all from the dog's point of view, and this dog, like his eyes widening in terror, it's like you really feel like it's like watching a kid react that way or something, right? It's just like, what are they doing to freak this dog out this much, right? You buy into it a lot more. And yeah, it's a really good, scary film. And so it's like I said, and audiences are finding it, I guess. This dog, by the way, oh, what a good boy. What a good boy. I love this dog. He's like everybody who sees this movie, I think that's why it's doing so well at the box office. Anyone who sees this film, it starts with like a montage of him as a puppy and then growing up. And I think it's the actual dog. And by the time that montage is done, I think everybody in the theater is in love with the dog. So.
I'm definitely seeing this movie. I think the story is it's the director's dog, and he filmed it over a period of a few years. And the scenes where the dog looks terrified, he's not. He's either hungry or he's
Right,
happy.
right.
You put your own feelings onto this
Sure.
dog. They didn't scare the bejesus out of this dog to get those reactions. So I'm told.
This is, and it's just that for anybody who wants to make films, I think this is a really great, shows you how you can have a very successful film, which is even making money. It's not even like the critics like it. This came out in theaters in the United States. This is, I'm sure it'll roll out around the world, and it's doing very well. And for such a small film, but to your point, you watch this film and you're like, this is something this guy could have shot in his house over the course of like months or a year. It's that level of production. And that's not, I don't want to ding the film for that. It looks great. Like it's really beautifully photographed. And the scares are really intense, incredible suspense throughout. So it's really well done. And just really smart. Like the dog at one point sees the ghost of another dog walking around the house, and he just starts following it from room to room. And then the dog disappears when it goes upstairs. And it's so clever. It's just like really well done. And just really smart filmmaking and a lot of fun. I mean, if you want a Halloween scare, it's not that intense scare, by the way, just to be clear. It's like scary sounds, and there's definitely like a ghost in the house, but it's not like grotesque or really intense. But it's a really good film. And like I said, an incredible dog performance.
Okay, good. So it's suitable for my 13-year-old, maybe not my 9-year-old.
I don't know if it's rated R. I don't imagine it's rated R. There is a couple of scenes. I mean, I think a 13-year-old, you're probably okay. There's a couple of scenes that are a little intense, but I guess, you know what? I'll take it back. I'd say if seeing specifically a dog, like, I don't think that the content itself is maybe too intense for, definitely not for the 9-year-old. I would say no, but maybe for a 13-year-old, I'd say in general, probably not that scary, because there are probably like other Conjuring level films, not the Conjuring itself, but films like that have PG-13 ratings. I would say the caveat here is, like, my daughter, seeing an animal in distress is very upsetting for her. So I think that might be a no for that reason.
That's a good tip. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have to start seeing these scary movies now, seeing as it's coming into the end of October.
I know it's getting to be
one thing that I haven't seen, but I want to see, is there's a documentary called Chain Reaction,
yes,
which is about the legacy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So that's on my radar to see. And also this VHS Halloween, which I've heard good things about. No.
I've seen VHS Halloween. I might be done with the VHS films, and I've seen all of them up until now. And I really liked the Alien one, the space, what was called VHS Space. I think it was called something like that. And which I like that one a lot. I think every short in that sci-fi one was good. So I was feeling like they were on an upswing here, but man, this new one not a single one of these things worked for me. I was just irritated the entire time, but I might just be burned out at this point on the whole VHS thing. So,
okay. Well, I've got a spare space on my list now.
Have you seen the others?
I don't think I have. I actually do not think I have seen any of them, but it's like the Wreck, isn't it? Like Wreck movies? I don't know.
Wreck is one. You've seen Wreck? Have you seen Wreck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Wreck is like one continuous story. These are short films. So there's different directors, and then they have like a wraparound story with the individual episodes interspersed. For anybody who wants to see them, by the way, I think one is available almost everywhere. It's available like on Amazon Prime and on Tubi and like a lot of the freemium ones. Everything else, all the other, I actually did this research recently. All of the other VHS films are available on Hoopla and Canopy. So if you have a library card, and this is in Australia as well, by the way, Darren, if you want to check it out, you can rent through your library, and all of them are available there, except for the latest one, which is available only on Shudder. But Shudder has picked this up since maybe the third one. They've been producing them ever since. And recently, I think it's almost every year they've put out one. But yeah, I was just not into this one. But I'll keep watching them because I like an anthology, and there's some great, truly great shorts in that compendium of so many. I mean, at this point, I think there's like 40 of them or something.
Okay, so we've got Welcome to Derry coming out. Is there another? Is there like a big Halloween movie that's coming out in the next few weeks that everybody's going to want to see, or are there just going to be lots of low budget ones that kind of maybe they'll hit, maybe they'll disappear?
I got to tell you, there is nothing big that I can remember that's on the agenda. And it's shocking. Like last year, there were so many horror films coming out late in the year. There was a lot of good ones too.
I feel like it was Smile 2 and it was
Smile 2.
Heretic. And
Yep, exactly. They all came out before Halloween. And yeah, nothing this year. Very surprising considering we've had some massive hits. You had like Weapons came out this year and Final Destination. So just the fact that they did not have anything like set up for October is really surprising. There's a lot of stuff to watch on. Once again, here's my free promotions here for HBO Max. And some of these recommendations maybe for you. For anyone who has not seen The Substance, they just premiered this week on HBO Max. So now it's available there. I know that was like your favorite film of last year, actually, Darren.
So good. Yeah, I've seen it twice. I think I'll leave it there.
We can watch it again now. And it's been a movie exclusively until now, but now this is exactly 1 year it came out. And I guess they have some kind of contract with HBO to have the films pop up. And this is a big one, obviously, compared to some of the other movie originals. And the other big one that you might want to check out that just premiered a couple of weeks back was Bring Her Back from A24. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it. It's by a couple of Adelaide boys.
Yeah, exactly.
And they made that. What was the one they made before with Talk to Me, which was terrifying.
Yes.
And worked for me quite a bit, I think. So they're really into their own style. I think they came through YouTube, just constantly making films, and they're very clever and they do things on a low budget. And that Bring Her Back, that trailer was terrifying. So yeah, I'm actually really interested in watching that.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it if you are into horror films and you want to see like an incredible performance. Everybody gives incredible performances there. I think it's a huge level up for the twins. I think they're twins who made the previous film, Talk to Her. And they're making Talk to Her, number 2, a sequel, which is in the works right now. But what I want to say is that this film, the Bring Her Back, I thought incredibly tense, incredibly emotional, powerful performances, very upsetting movie, a very upsetting movie. And I mean, just like as a drama, it's extremely upsetting, like the content itself and just the empathy you have for everybody, including the villain of the piece, which I won't spoil anything here. But it's a devastating watch. So what I would say is and by the way, the filmmaking technique, these brothers have just like taken it to the next level. There's like every single shot selection is so smart. It's like just one of those, it's hard to explain, but it's just like every shot selection is so well composed and so well thought out without being flashy, without being distracting. And so that just things like reveal themselves in the frame and you realize like as the scene progresses, why it was framed the way it was. Like really very mature and impressive filmmaking. But what I'd say to people is if you like a horror film that, unlike Talk to Me, which is a thrill ride, right? It has all those aspects that worked there, but this is much quieter. And like I said, this is an emotionally upsetting film. So if you don't mind being upset, and then, then definitely watch the film. If that's the type of thing you really don't want to feel bad after watching a horror film, because I've recommended this to people and they're like, oh man, I feel terrible after watching that film. So it's like, I think it's a very good film. I think it's one of the better films I saw this year. Great performances, great filmmaking, but it is upsetting. It's like very upsetting. So take all that with a grain of salt.
Okay, that's a great recommendation. That's near the top of my list now because, yeah, I've seen interviews with those guys and they're just very down to earth Aussie lads, and you can just see that they've just been constantly making films their whole life together, and just the enthusiasm just comes through the way they talk about it. And it's good to see people that just love film for film's sake, and they'll make anything. They don't even have to be paid for stuff all day, every day. And obviously, if you do it your 10,000 hours, you're going to be pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because you've seen their YouTube channel, which is still up. They are just these goofballs. Also in their interviews, oftentimes, it is very funny. I saw a couple of interviews of them with this film, this second film specifically. And some of these, they were so goofy in their interviews. And then you go see the movie and you're like, oh man, what happened to you guys? And where did this come from? It's very upsetting. And yeah, so take that. Like I said, and by the way, I want to be clear. It's not like there are some really tough, like gross scenes, but it is not like grotesque to gross you out. It's not that type of horror. There are things that are very upsetting visually. They present things like unflinchingly, but it's all in the service of the story. But for me, it's more like it's I don't know how else to describe it. It's a downer. This is a downer. So, but if you don't mind being like feeling down after watching a horror film, then definitely check it out, because it is very well made, and they're terrific performances.
Well, that's good to know, to go into that.
Yeah. Don't, take that. Be prepared depending on your mood. All right, Darren. Yeah, I don't know what other. I mean, we maybe have a horror roundup later for Halloween week, but I got to say, some recent stuff I'm surprised that there's been pretty quiet on the horror front, given how close.
I feel like something will pop up. I feel like we've still got a couple of weeks to go. Something will pop up, surely.
I hope so. I'm like racking my brain right now trying to think of something. I guess Welcome to Derry is going to be a big deal because it's opening the week before Halloween. So maybe that'll be where people get there. And I mean, of course, the IP for it is massive, right? That first It movie made like $700 million, something insane like that. So it's definitely popular. So maybe that'll be the thing everybody's talking about for Halloween. But then there's like 5 or 6 more episodes after that. So we'll see if it holds up beyond that.
Looking forward to it.
All right, Darren. Have a great rest of the week. And we'll touch base next week, and we'll talk about, I don't even know what we'll talk about. We'll find something to talk about next week.
All right. I'll do some homework. Do some more homework. Thanks, Lowdown. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. You got to watch Chad Powers and tell me.
Yes, I know.
Tell me if you're on board or if you're off.
Yeah. We could talk about the English teacher also. I've only seen 2 episodes of that, so we can maybe have like a comedy roundup episode.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Thanks for the conversation.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye.